Welcome in on a Monday, everybody. I'm Reed Cowan. Chaos in Kentucky and a deep woods search for a shooter who took aim at drivers on a highway. We've got that, plus presidential polls and battleground states show razor-thin results in the battle for the White House. Could the presidential debate sway in the swing states? This is CBS News 24/7. Let's go. Let's start out in Kentucky, where news right now tells the story of a manhunt. We're talking about this guy, 32-year-old Joseph Couch. He is named suspect number 1 in a series of highway shootings. So he's on the run right now at this hour, while police tell CBS News the accused triggerman injured at least 5 people Saturday. As of this morning, a $10,000 reward is available for anybody that has information leading to his arrest. In fact, we just got this urgent call for help from the mayor in that community to his citizens.
Then this is serious, and we're just asking people to really look how serious the situation is. This guy hurt 5 people, shot into 12 vehicles, and it's important that people do the right thing and know that if they come forward, that information is going to be kept with law enforcement, and anything that you do have could lead them to the capture of this individual. And again, he is dangerous. This is a very serious situation. I mean, it doesn't need to be taken lightly.
All hands on deck there in Kentucky. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Christian Benavides live in the Kentucky town of London. Christian, we're hearing the area around those highways is really densely wooded, and it's a tough fight to try to find this guy.
Reed, officials tell me that they have to go essentially searching through a 2 to 3 mile radius, and this is an area that part of it is not accessible by car. So you've got about 40 to 50 officers that throughout the weekend have been walking through this heavily wooded area. You've got, according to officials that have spoken to me and have told me, you've got caves in there, you've got potential tunnels. I mean, this is a really, really rugged area of Kentucky. Now, just a few minutes ago, we got the report. This is the arrest affidavit, which includes some information, some new information about this case, some of the evidence that officials apparently have against Couch. I'm just looking over it right now. Apparently, prior to this incident taking place, he had contacted a woman via text and via telephone, telling her, "I'm going to kill a lot of people. Well, try at least, and I'll kill myself afterwards," according to the text messages that he sent. This is, again, something that we just received. I'm looking over it right now as I'm live with you, so we're going to look over all of that. Some information that we already knew that's on this affidavit is that he had purchased the weapon just prior to this incident taking place, and at this point the search for him in that wooded area continues. Again, what we know about this is that he went to I-75, set up somewhere nearby above the highway, and started shooting towards vehicles on the highway. 12 vehicles struck in all, and you've got 5 people who were struck, including 1 person who was hit in the face. All are expected to survive.
So we understand it's a much different Monday, a much different start to the week than it was a week ago at this time. What are people doing in that area that's different today than maybe in days prior?
Well, look, at this point, schools are closed. Parents clearly worried, concerned that this individual may still be out there. So out of an abundance of caution, schools in the area are closed. Some businesses have decided not to open today, but we did speak to one woman who opened up her coffee shop today. She said that she was trying to figure out whether or not she wanted to do this. And the reason she decided to open up is because she's right around the corner from the sheriff's department. And she said all this law enforcement that's out there, they're going to need somewhere to go. They're going to need to get coffee. They're going to need to grab some food. And so that's why she said that she decided to open her doors today. So a community right now on edge as the search continues for this individual, Joseph Couch.
Search continues, and so does our coverage. Christian Benavides, thank you so much for that update. Okay, so we just got news about the woman poised to one day be the Queen of England. Kate, the Princess of Wales, breaking the news. She's completed chemotherapy after that cancer diagnosis. The princess telling the world you can now expect her to resume public duties in the coming months. You know, months ago, Kate told the world of that undisclosed cancer diagnosis and a journey and a fight to beat it. Here's CBS News foreign correspondent Rami Inocencio.
Yeah, breaking news and good breaking news, Reed. Kate, Princess of Wales, said she is finished with her preventative course of chemotherapy. The palace released this stylized and very intimate video, just over 3 minutes long, showing Kate, William, the Prince of Wales, and their 3 children together in woodland, along with pastoral settings as a family. The princess narrated over this video using a string of very emotional words, talking about how her cancer journey was scary and unpredictable, and that she found humility and vulnerability, but also strength, and that she is grateful for the support from the UK and around the world. It's been 9 months since her abdominal surgery in January. It's been six months in March since she announced her cancer diagnosis after that surgery, and then starting preventive chemotherapy. She reappeared to the world in her first official public engagement at King Charles's birthday parade in June, and now 3 months later, she has been able to say that she is cancer-free. She says her focus is to stay cancer-free, and we're told she will start a light program of public engagements over the remainder of this year. Reed.
Amy Inocencio in London for us. Thank you. So our monitors take us back to a battleground blitz by Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So right now they're courting voters during what is really a razor-thin margin time for both camps. The reality for both candidates in battleground states is they have to fight and fight every day. Harris is prepared for the upcoming presidential debate between stops inside stores in Pittsburgh. She was seen talking, even hugging a lot of voters there inside those stores. She's there because she wants to boost her platform of small businesses. Trump, meanwhile, you can see him right here behind us, behind bulletproof glass. He put his money on Wisconsin, rallying voters there. So as they talk to voters, they have one eye on this. This is their reality. This is according to a CBS News poll. Wisconsin is one of 3 states where Harris and Trump are neck and neck among voters. Harris holds a tight lead in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And our polling also gives us a read on where voters are on the issues. While voters felt Trump is the better candidate to help with the economy and inflation, a majority felt Harris is more likely to help the middle class. So take this to the bank. We are where the candidates are day in and day out. And CBS News campaign reporter Jake Rosen talking Team Trump in just a minute. But first, CBS News political reporter Aaron Navarro streams with us from Pittsburgh. Aaron, tight numbers going into the debate tomorrow. How is Harris getting ready for this?
This is a crucial state in Pennsylvania for the November election. And in part, that's why you've seen Vice President Harris here in downtown Pittsburgh since last Thursday preparing for the debate. Sources close to the campaign tell CBS News they're kind of pulling out all the stops as they prepare. They have an advisor playing the role of former President Trump during their mock debates, even dressing up as him. And sources also tell CBS News that they are using full-on debate television lights as they prepare and as Harris prepares her answers for tomorrow night.
All right, so it seems we're at the point in time right now where every move by every candidate really reveals some strategy. After the debate, where's Kamala Harris headed?
She is going to North Carolina for a handful of rallies on Thursday, and then she is coming back here to Pennsylvania, but on the other side of the state, the eastern part of the state near Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, on Friday, showing that they are ready to get back onto the trail after this debate tomorrow, and showing again the importance that they're placing on Pennsylvania, which will be crucial for both candidates to win if they want to get to 270 electoral college votes later this fall.
Yeah, we're showing video just a second ago of Harris having a walk with Doug Emhoff. Asked if she's ready. She said, I'm ready. Aaron, thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's bring in Jake Rosen now. Jake, you're watching Team Trump. His steps also revealing some strategy for Wisconsin over the weekend.
Well, that's right. The former president was in central Wisconsin courting voters at an airport hangar rally. This is part of a swing that Donald Trump did last week, including speaking to law enforcement members and doing a town hall with Sean Hannity in Pennsylvania, a state that the Trump campaign has repeatedly made an emphasis and focus as they head towards November. Now, when it comes to the debate, the former president has been having some informal policy sessions, his advisors tell us. We'll expect to hear a little bit more later today, potentially from some Trump campaign advisors about exactly what the former president is doing today as he's down in Florida going into tomorrow.
All right, Jake. So in recent hours, Trump's been dealing with more questions, more talk and discussion over his cognitive health. Comes as his campaign is really ramping up efforts to appeal to younger male voters. What more can you tell us about those things?
Well, that's exactly right. We've seen the Trump campaign kind of make it push in the last couple of weeks to focus on doing more digital streaming engagements like podcast shows with very popular hosts, in addition to some live streams down at Mar-a-Lago, including one person who brought a Cybertruck with that infamous fight picture on it from the Butler assassination attempt. This is just one angle that the Trump campaign has done to get Donald Trump out there to younger voters who they believe can turn out for them. But this also comes as our CBS News polling from this weekend shows that the script has been flipped in the last couple weeks since the last debate, that Donald Trump is now seen as in the red, no pun intended, on having a weakness among voters about who voters see as the most competent and able-bodied to be president. Obviously, as we remember going back into the last debate, it was President Biden who had that worry on his mind. So we'll see exactly how those fears play out. But this engagement with younger voters and specifically going to events like the UFC and things like that is really what the Trump campaign wants to have their posture be going forward for these younger voters to dissuade them of some of those concerns.
The debates will be fascinating to watch. You'll see both candidates in split screen, and you'll see what those comparisons are. Thank you so much, Jake. All right, we want to let our viewers know we have full coverage of that first debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. That is tomorrow. Even though it's hosted by the network ABC, you can watch the debate on CBS News 24/7. Pre-show coverage starts on America Decides at 5 p.m. When we come back, fires not of a political sort, but of a real sort. California firefighters once again doing battle with scores of wildfires. We're going to take you to the worst of those when we come back. All right, we're moving on the map to California, where wildfires have crews and neighbors on the run there. Think about this. More than a dozen wildfires fueled by a dangerous heat wave and then pushed by some pretty high winds. In fact, you see this. This is video to our monitors out of San Bernardino County outside of Los Angeles. This CAL FIRE map that you're about to see here really shows you a better idea of the size of that area that we're talking about. This fire is called the Line Fire. It exploded to more than 20,000 acres. In fact, crews tell us the fight is fierce. Only 3% containment at this hour. CBS News Los Angeles reporter Rick Montanez joins us live now from San Bernardino County. This is a tough firefight, Rick.
Yeah, Reed, you know, firefighters are dealing with day 5 of this fire, and every single day temperatures have been above 100 degrees and very hot for these mountain communities. You see that smoke plume right now. We've been watching as the fire has burned along that ridge since before sunrise today. CAL FIRE tells me that this is the only area burning at the moment, but I covered this fire on Friday, just 12 hours after it started. I was on scene, and I could tell you it looked calm like this, and then it erupted over the weekend, growing from 500 acres on Friday afternoon to now more than 20,000 just a few days later.
Well, and Rick, we're also understanding that a state of emergency has been declared by Governor Gavin Newsom. That essentially gets more state dollars in to help fund in the fight, right?
Right. We're talking about more resources as well, which includes some C-130 air tankers that will come in and drop about 3,000 to 4,000 gallons of water or fire retardant. That is much higher quantities than the helicopters that we see out here. So they were able to get one of those, some of those DC-10s, the big giant airplanes, to come as well. And now they have 1,300 firefighting personnel here on the front lines because of that declaration of a state of emergency.
Rick, we thank you for streaming with us today. To our viewers, Rick has been reporting on this since before the sun came up. Thank you so much. We're glad to have you with us here on the stream. Hey, different place on the California map, but same fight. Look at this. Our eye on Fresno County right now in Central California. This fire also has a name. It's called the Boone Fire. 17,000 acres burned, and just firefighters telling us heat and steep terrain, especially for this one, is really making it tough to put out.
The terrain definitely is one of the hardest parts when it comes to fighting these fires over in California. And as we take a look at what's happening right now, back down to the Line Fire behind me, you see those onshore winds staying consistent as we head into the next 24 hours. That does bring in relative humidity along the shoreline. However, that fire is still so inland that that's not the major concern. Of course, we're dealing with strong winds, and this fire is continuing to grow. We've mentioned it earlier. It's now at 20,000 acres, and it's still continuing to grow. Containment not the largest right now. And we look at the whole West Coast, where they're not only dealing with fire weather conditions, but red flag warnings are still in effect right now all throughout Southern California. They're also battling that extreme heat. Daytime highs have been sitting in the triple digits for quite some time, and we look all the way to the north. It's hard not to ignore all the way up into Oregon. Oregon and Idaho also dealing with major wildfires, and that smoke plume, you can see it just at the surface level, continues to track off into the east. We keep a close eye on them up north, but all the way down in the south, like I mentioned, they're dealing with that extreme heat from San Diego over into Los Angeles. That was the big weather story for us this weekend. Heading into the weekend, forecasting for them. You add that to fire weather conditions. There's a lot of concerns with air quality down in that region as well. Luckily, the heat risk starts to improve as we head into the coming days. This is just by tomorrow. You see that big change along that shoreline. So let's head all the way over into our map now, where daytime highs widespread throughout the states are definitely feeling summer-like. We head all the way into the south. Daytime highs in Los Angeles sitting at 100 degrees. San Francisco along that shoreline dealing with a lot cooler conditions the more north we go. Phoenix this afternoon, as well as Las Vegas, also sitting in triple-digit weather. So we keep a close eye on the south as we head into the coming days, the southwest specifically with all of that heat. But you do with fire weather conditions and you mix that heat in, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Sure is. Okay, Jess, thank you so much. So we're going to move from national weather to international weather matters. When we come back, we're going to take you to Vietnam, where they are really feeling the after effects of a typhoon that hit that entire region. We're going to show you some jaw-dropping video when we come back. Until we do, we'll be watching the monitors for breaking news. We told you we would be watching these monitors, and we have this new item for you. Our monitors take us now to Moscow, Idaho, where a judge granted a request to move the trial location for Brian Kohberger. Kohberger is the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students. The judge saying he's concerned about his ability to receive a fair trial given the enormous publicity in a relatively small community. That judge also citing concern over available space inside the courthouse. Keep in mind, this has gained international attention. Many reporters will likely be at that courthouse. Here's what we do not know: where the trial for Brian Kohberger will take place. We'll be watching. Did you see this? This is video to our monitors and a reminder of a shocking moment seen just before millions watched football Sunday. Miami Dolphins star Tyreek Hill detained and at one point face down on the pavement right before the game. So by today, Hill's agent says the wide receiver was ticketed for a moving violation, but they're not sure why the situation came to this. What we do know, Miami-Dade police officers now on administrative duty while police investigate exactly what led up to that moment with his face to the pavement. Look at this. Our video feeds take you overseas, where a typhoon and a flash flooding killed 60 people in Vietnam. Literally, wicked flooding there, making it so that this is a bridge to nowhere. That bridge demolished there. The river swelled because of all of the floodwaters that came in and took out all that was supporting that bridge, and now it's just halfway there. Jess, that just shows you the power of water to move.
And it is an active season right now. We now change gears and switch all the way over into our tropics, just in the Gulf of Mexico, where storms are really starting to gain strength as sea surface temperatures are warm just south of Louisiana, all the way over into Texas too. So as we head into the next couple days, the big weather story for us is Tropical Storm Francine. You'll see it right behind me in a second. This storm is really starting to gain some strength just offshore of Mexico right now, gaining strength as it moves north, just around 5 miles per hour. This is the updated advisory. Here's what's happening as we head into the coming days. The storm will continue to move north. It's going to hit Louisiana Wednesday afternoon, just around 7 o'clock. This is when it hits that inland shoreline, and it continues to move north all the way into Alabama, eventually into the Carolinas too. This storm is going to bring in a lot of rain. It's going to bring in a lot of storm surge all throughout that coastline too. So as we watch Futurecast, this has a lot of strength just north, closer to the Corpus Christi coastline, all the way up into Houston. These are sea surface temperatures that are warm, allowing for it to really gain that momentum as it moves its way along the shoreline. Storm surge anywhere up to around 1 to 3 feet near Texas. However, we now head over into Louisiana just into that Wednesday afternoon and evening hour. We're going to see anywhere up to 5 to 10 feet of storm surge along those local communities. We keep a close eye on areas like New Orleans too, where they can also expect some storm surge from this. This is going to be a strong storm, and within the next 48 hours, we could see anywhere up to around 12 inches of rainfall in local communities, but on average, it's mostly just around 4 to 8. I'll have more on that coming up in a bit. For now, over to you, Reed.
Pope Francis continues his tour in many parts of the globe on a Monday. He's in East Timor today. CBS News' Anna Matronga reports Francis talked about sex abuse and the call to make sure it never happens again.
When Pope Francis arrived in Dili, these streets were teeming with people ready to welcome him. This is a monumental occasion for this country, the most Catholic state in the world after the Vatican. About 98% of Timorese are Catholic, and the church has a very strong influence here, having played a key role in the country's struggle for independence. But it has also been plagued with sex abuse scandals, reaching the very top of its hierarchy. The former head of the Timorese Church, Nobel Peace Prize winner Bishop Carlos Belo, was restricted from ministry by Francis in 2020 for sexually abusing young boys. Many here still consider Belo an independence hero. In his first speech in East Timor, Francis alluded to sex abuse, saying, "We're all called to do everything possible to prevent every kind of abuse for all young people." He also praised East Timor for its peaceful and democratic development and urged its leaders to continue focusing on the common good. Francis arrived here from Papua New Guinea, a country with a rich cultural diversity, very much on display during his visit. On Sunday, the Pope traveled deep into the jungle on an Australian military transport plane to personally deliver medicines, clothing and toys to one of the poorest, most remote areas of the world. The Pope appears to be holding up well despite the grueling nature of this trip, the longest of his pontificate. He'll spend 3 days here before moving on to his final stop, Singapore. Reed?
Anna, thank you. Well, it was a fantastic but kind of rainy closing of the Paris Paralympic Games to our monitors now. Beautiful there. Athletes from 170 countries participated in this year's games. By the way, Team USA took home 36 gold medals and overall 105 medals. The torch is now off to Los Angeles, where the next Paralympic Games is set for 2028. When we come back, we're going to be watching what happens with Congress. Another possible government shutdown looms. And members of Congress work together to stave that off another day. We'll be right back. CBS News 24/7 streaming coast to coast and worldwide. And you see that live look at Capitol Hill. Here's what's happening there. Republicans on the House Foreign Affairs Committee released a scathing report about how the Biden administration handled that 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, if you're paying attention, this has really become a drumbeat for Team Trump, trying to tie Kamala Harris and the Joe Biden administration to allegations of failure there in Afghanistan. So let's bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian. Nicole, you have the report. What stands out to you in this report?
Well, the main conclusion from this GOP-led report provided by the House Foreign Affairs Committee, in essence, argues that the Biden administration put optics over security, that they did not put enough contingency plans in place before this withdrawal, and that the Biden administration, in their view, largely ignored warnings from military leaders, national security officials before conducting this withdrawal, which in their view is why they believe it was so chaotic, ultimately resulting in the deaths of some 13 service members and dozens of others who were wounded in a terrorist attack at the Kabul airport in the midst of that withdrawal. However, many Democrats are countering with their own report and findings. They argue that Republicans on this panel are simply just involved in a lot of spin and trying to make the Biden administration look bad. So there is some political back and forth with respect to this report, but the chairman, Mike McCall, argues that a lot of work went into this, that they issued a number of subpoenas. They have yet to have someone like Secretary of State Antony Blinken testify, which is something that they had been pushing for. So again, this investigation is one that is still underway, but this report with a number of major findings as a result following a nearly 2-year investigation.
All right, Nicole, it's also a busy day there in Washington, D.C. Congress also trying to avoid a government shutdown. How did we get here?
Well, as you know, this is something periodically that occurs here on Capitol Hill where the government must be funded. And so, of course, the last agreement runs through the end of this month. And so Speaker Mike Johnson has put forth a 6-month plan to keep the government operational through March of next year. He's one of those who's opposed to, this coming down to the 11th hour around the holidays. That's why he wants to kind of push this into next year. But he does also want to include what Republicans are calling an election integrity measure, along with this something called the SAVE Act, which requires or would require proof of citizenship to vote, something that is kind of already on the books. And so that is why many congressional Democrats are opposed to this. They see it as nothing more than a poison pill and a non-starter. So there's likely to be some back and forth between both sides before we actually see the government funded at some point, hopefully before the end of the month.
Never just one story to tell here on the stream from Capitol Hill. Nicole Killian, always a masterclass in giving us the rundown. Thank you so much. All right, so let's move on the map to Winder, Georgia, and the headlines the week after that deadly school shooting at Appalachia High School. The school remains closed for classes, but we understand mental health services are available. CBS News senior national correspondent Mark Strassman back on campus today. Mark, class is out, so what is bringing kids to campus today?
They're being allowed to go into the school to retrieve their belongings 5 days after the horrific event here that killed 4 people, 2 teachers and 2 14-year-olds. That's got to be a surreal moment for a lot of those kids who their last memory of school was probably running out in terror, many of them, as the shooting unfolded. So it's just another step, of course, for a community that is again, 5 days into this healing process, just trying to recover from this horrific event. And when these kids will be going back to school, Rita, is, of course, a question that's still looking for an answer.
Another question I have for you. CBS News has confirmed the mother of the accused gunman alerted the school about a potential mental health crisis. What more are we learning about a timeline there in a frantic call?
Got a call about 8 o'clock, a text about 8 o'clock in the morning from her son saying, I'm sorry, Mother. And she took that as with an alarm bell and called the school saying this is an extreme emergency, go find my son. And the school tried to do that, but they couldn't find him. And by the time they did, he was standing in a hallway with an AR platform rifle opening fire. So, and that was all about the call from the mother to the school was about a half hour, again, before the shooting started. So, there were a series of these sort of missed opportunities to prevent the horror that happened at this school, and that moment was clearly one.
Mark Strassman, thank you for streaming with us today. Well, let's talk about news on the campaign trail now. Both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are in the final stages of preparations for tomorrow's debate. A lot of people will be watching that. Democrats are coming together to support their candidate ahead of November elections. But earlier today, Pennsylvania leaders held a conference to rally for Kamala Harris and issue their own warning against Trump's agenda for 2025.
Is Project 2025, which I brought to show you today. I am working my way through the dense dystopian reality of what that outline is. It would give him nearly unrestricted power and control over women and girls and Pennsylvanians' daily lives. That's his entire goal in this race, to get virtually unlimited power. And Project 2025 is his blueprint for achieving that. They have it titled A Mandate for Leadership. I call it a mandate for misogyny and other dystopian disorders that Donald Trump and his cronies are suffering from.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has disavowed Project 2025, but we want to encourage you to go to cbsnews.com, where our political team has put together a comparison of Donald Trump's policies and Project 2025 to let you read it for yourself and decide for yourself. I want to take you to the state of California now, where frustration grows for people living in Ranchos Palos Verdes. This is just south of Los Angeles. You'll remember we've shown you on the stream that landslide, the subterranean landslide, threatening and destroying a lot of homes there. But now a dozen more homes are having their electricity shut off. That's happening in a couple of hours because of the risk underneath the ground. The governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom, already declared a state of emergency in that area. But for now, that is little comfort to the people who are now having to leave. And for those who are staying adjacent to where you're seeing the landslide, they're now lights out. Meanwhile, also in California, raging wildfires have destroyed more than 20,000 acres. This is along the San Bernardino National Forest. It's about 65 miles east of Los Angeles. This is called the line fire, fueled by dangerous heat and high winds. Firefighters just cannot catch a break in this one. And in all, there are 15 active fires across the state of California. Among them, the Bridge Fire, that's this one you're looking at in Los Angeles County. It's now covering nearly 1.3 miles of the San Gabriel Canyon area. A day after it broke out, it's grown to that size. So that just shows you the power of the winds moving the fire. In fact, California Highway Patrol had to act fast. They shut down Highway 39 nearby to just avoid traffic congestion. So far, no containment here. Let's move the map now to Northern California, and this is the Boyles Fire. This is in Lake County, about 100 miles north of San Francisco. Look at the burned out car. That's just one of many. At this hour, it is more than 90 acres in size. Very little containment, about 30% to report. Major damage also to report. We showed you the burned out car there. There are 50 cars burned out, but also we can tell you 30 structures burned. This is in the town of Clear Lake. 4,000 people in this area right now living under evacuation orders. Jess, it just makes you wonder when fire season will ever end in the state of California.
That is true. And for 4,000 people to evacuate for only a 90-acre fire that's still growing right now because of the winds up there, that's a big concern, and that's the big weather story right now. We keep a close eye on them because it doesn't take a lot of winds moving in from offshore to really spread that fire, especially just those little embers. Those are spot fires that will continue to grow. And so here's what we're looking at down south. I want to go right back to Southern California because not only are we talking about surface smoke allowing for poor air quality in those local communities surrounding San Bernardino, but we're also keeping a close eye on how much larger this fire really can grow. It is dry down there. Relative humidity is low. And to add to that, we're also keeping a very close eye on fires burning to the north with very similar characteristics all the way up into Idaho and stretching over into Oregon too. That wildfire smoke continues to impact communities stretching all the way over into states like Montana. And the other big story for us right now down south has to do with the heat. Those firefighters are battling some extreme heat right now, anywhere from Los Angeles all the way over into San Diego. And as we turn the page all the way into tomorrow, that's when we start to see some relief in sight in communities like San Bernardino. So let's head over to our virtual reality map real fast on the floor. As we head into the next couple days, the big weather story for us really is the extreme heat that's down in Southern California, though, with those fires. And we could see temperatures this afternoon anywhere up to around 100 degrees just in the city of Los Angeles. Stretching all the way over into Las Vegas, it's a very similar trend. Triple digits there, a similar trend over into Phoenix. It is hot in the southwest right now, and it is dry too. This is fire weather season all throughout the West Coast, and we're keeping a very close eye on those conditions, Reed.
All right, Jess, thank you so much. Hey, when we come back, we want to take people back to their focus on the state of Idaho. That grisly murder trial against Brian Kohberger, it's taken a turn. We're going to let you know what is happening regarding a request for a change of venue. We'll be talking to one of our CBS partners closely following that case. Taking you back to a focus on that big story out of Moscow, Idaho. Here's your headline. A judge granted a request to move the trial location for a man named Brian Kohberger. If you don't know that name, we'll catch you up. He's the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students. CBS News correspondent Elise Preston joins us live now from our Los Angeles bureau. Elise, did the judge give any explanation as to why this decision was made?
Reed, it was a very lengthy explanation. Keep in mind that this murder that happened in the college town has rocked this community since the very beginning. And the judge is concerned that as a result of, the close-knit community, but just the sheer media coverage, the judge sided with the defense, saying that he, too, was also concerned that Kohberger would not be able to receive a fair trial. The judge also mentioned some moments where he believed that public officials in this community had made comments that also kind of spoke to that they believe that Kohberger is also guilty. Now, this has been a back and forth battle between the defense and the state for more than a year now of them trying to move this venue. Now, it's not clear right now where exactly this trial will take place. We just know that it won't take
take place in this close-knit community. I can tell you in this town, it is very much a college town. You can feel those vibes when you arrive. And just earlier this year, actually about a few weeks ago, they launched a memory garden in honor of all the students who have been lost in the community. So I know that this community is very close-knit, very rocked by this very murder that happened in November of 2022.
CBS News correspondent Elise Preston, thank you so much. We await to hear from the judge exactly where that trial will take place. We know you'll be all over it. Thank you so much. Heading overseas now, activists and Palestinian officials honoring an American woman shot and killed by Israeli Defense Forces Friday. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer reports how the U.S. and loved ones are reacting to her death.
The people who've joined the procession today, officials, activists, and the Palestinian people are here to honor Aghi's death and also to say a final goodbye.
For the ceremony to honor her, Aysenur Aghi's body was wrapped in a Palestinian flag. Her family said she'd been a passionate human rights activist her whole life. 26 years old and a recent graduate from the University of Washington, she'd come to the West Bank just last week to support the Palestinians. On Friday, Aghi had joined activists in the West Bank demonstrating against an Israeli settlement expanding in the middle of Palestinian lands.
Yeah, you see the two jeeps.
The Israeli army clashed with the demonstrators. The military now says rocks were thrown and the soldiers fired back with live bullets. Aghi was shot in the head.
I saw her lying on the ground under an olive tree, bleeding to death. I looked up and I saw a clear line of sight to the soldiers.
They're shooting live rounds. Among those paying tribute to Aghi today is Vivi Chen, another American who volunteered with one of the organizations that recruits foreigners to stand with the Palestinians.
So we come here to try and stand in solidarity with them, to try and use, what privilege we have with our passports.
The White House has said it's deeply disturbed by Aghi's death, and her family have called for an independent investigation. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, in Nablus in the occupied West Bank.
Well, just moments ago from Arlington, Virginia, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin welcomed his Vietnamese counterpart. He's visiting the U.S. with one mission, and that is to strengthen defense cooperation between the U.S. and Vietnam. This trip marks the first time both defense chiefs meet since agreeing on a strategic comprehensive partnership about a year ago when President Biden visited Vietnam. Now this. All right, let's come home now. CBS News, Eye on America, keeps us rooted in our core value, and that is this, telling your stories in your communities all across the map. Think about this. Americans generate 48 million tons of plastic waste every year, and very little of it is ever recycled. Our Eye on Houston today, leaders there say they've created a program that can recycle just about any type of plastic. CBS News senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy looks at what's being called a model for the entire country.
This was tomatoes.
When Brandy Deason bags up her plastic recycling,
I'm waiting for the tracker now to come up.
She tosses in a tracking device at the end.
You're like a plastic spy.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like it, yeah.
She was skeptical of Houston's new recycling program that claims it can recycle any kind of plastic. The tracker showed her bags ended up at this storage site, not a recycling center.
Do you think the average person in Houston dropping off the recycling thinks it ends up here?
No, I think that they've gotten the idea that it's being taken care of and being recycled.
Instead, we saw piles of plastic waste stacked several feet high. The city says it's collected 250 tons of plastic since the end of 2022, and almost none of it has been recycled yet.
How big is this?
So it's about 9 football fields, 550,000 square feet.
The plastic is supposed to come to this Houston warehouse, where a long-delayed sorting facility has yet to be built. Ryan Tebbets manages the project for a company called Cyclix.
We need a huge supply of plastics to get ready for startup here, and we want to start that now in order to get ahead of it.
The honest thing is it's not being recycled yet.
It will be recycled.
Plastic is made from oil and gas and comes in thousands of chemically distinct varieties that cannot be mixed together. That's why less than 10% gets recycled. But Cyclic says it figured out a way to sort and process any kind of plastic into these pellets that can be recycled.
But you acknowledge you've never done this at scale.
Correct. This is our first facility.
Cyclics is partly funded by ExxonMobil, one of the biggest plastic makers on the planet. It's trying to prove something it calls advanced recycling can help solve the planet's crisis of plastic waste, and hopes its Houston program could be a model for the nation.
The shiny metal shows the new technology that we brought in.
Ray Mastroleo manages Exxon's effort.
And advanced recycling ultimately allows us to take that wide range of plastic waste that doesn't have a home today and repurpose them. Advanced recycling is real. It's happening. We're doing it.
The process uses heat to break down plastic to its molecular level. A small amount is turned into new plastic, but much of it becomes fuel that is burned, creating planet-warming emissions. Exxon says it has processed 60 million pounds of plastic waste so far, but the industry has touted advanced recycling for decades and not yet made it work at a large scale.
America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars.
Plastic makers are now waging a new recycling ad campaign, just as Shell Oil shelved their advanced recycling plans, calling them unfeasible. And California's Attorney General is investigating Exxon, accusing the industry of a half-century campaign of deception about recycling.
With all due respect, should we trust a company that makes money off of making and selling plastic to tell us that there is a solution to the plastic waste problem?
I mean, that's challenging the integrity of who we are, but this is just a starting point, and we are in it for the long haul.
In the meantime, all that plastic is still piling up. For Eye on America, Ben Tracy, Houston.
All right, burn 2 words into your mind, Francine, and then the name New Orleans. In fact, this is a live look at New Orleans where you might want to pay close attention to the tropics. Storm surge and that name storm, Francine, Jess.
And it's starting to gain strength too. Right now it's still at a tropical storm status, but within the coming days it should hit a Category 1 hurricane right before it makes landfall over Louisiana. And it's definitely starting to gain strength right now, hitting some warmer sea surface temperatures just south of Texas as we speak. It's just offshore of Mexico and right around the corner. This is slowly but surely going to make its way all the way up into Louisiana as we head into the coming days. The storm will hit Louisiana Wednesday afternoon, just around 7 o'clock. The center of it will move its way inland, and storm surge is a big concern for us with this named storm. Now, Tropical Storm Francine currently at max winds of around 60 miles per hour. It only takes 73 to 74 mile per hour winds for it to gain that Category 1 status, and that's the case as we head into the coming days. It's slowly moving its way north, just around 5 miles per hour right now as it enters those warmer sea surface temperatures. Here's the track as we head into the coming days. Around 7 in the morning, it's still well offshore Louisiana. 7 into the evening that night, around 85 mile per hour winds are expected as it moves its way inland and continues to track north into Mississippi and Alabama. Here's where this is going to track, and it's going to take a little bit of time for it to move its way up along that coastline, but storm surge starts all along the coastline near Galveston in Texas, Corpus Christi, before it even enters into Louisiana's airspace. And as we head into the coming days too, the storm surge is the big concern in New Orleans, as well as that whole coastal region just to the south too, south of Franklin. Anywhere up to around 12 feet is expected with that storm surge. And so taking a look at total rainfall within the next 48 hours, as that slowly starts to gain strength, moving its way just along the shoreline of Texas up into Louisiana, we can see on average around 4 to 8 inches in certain spots in Louisiana, but anywhere up to around 12 is anticipated too. Reed.
All right, Jess, thank you so much. We know you like tech, Jess, so we're going to show you something that might just make you think this is pretty cool. Big tech news. Just moments ago, Apple just unveiled the new iPhone 16. During the event titled It's Glow Time, Apple said it developed this era of phones with one thing in mind. It's the integration with Apple AI. Major upgrades to the phone include action button, physical camera control button, also new headphones, new Apple Watch Series 10. These are the 4th generation AirPods. And by the way, I just cracked my screen. Gotta go buy one. That's it for us, CBS News 24/7. Thanks for watching on a Monday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.